Well, hi y'all. My name is Dena and this is my debut on Twitch with As Above Academy. I've been with As Above Academy and the rest of the team for, I think, just over 3 years now. I got to meet everybody in person in a live retreat held in Los Angeles 3 years ago, and it was love at first connection. I got involved with As Above Academy, and I love the people, what we do, and the wonderful products and opportunities that we get to bring to the public, to all you guys, all you people. And I'm very interested and excited to find out what I'm going to talk about today. I have lots of passions. I am devoted and dedicating to the topics of healing, not just the topic, but the actuality of healing and unity among my fellow humans. I love to see people overcome their limitations and their blocks, the things that get in the way of who and how we really are, so that we can flourish and thrive in this incredible experience of the human incarnation on planet Earth. I do believe this is a very exciting time in which to be alive. I have lots of reasons to be excited about that, and I think a lot of us chose to be here for such a time as this. So, what am I going to talk about? I love art, I love writing, I love creativity, I love healing, shamanism, esotericism, wisdom of all kinds. I love connecting dots, finding patterns, and sharing those with all sorts of people. And oh, look, we got people joining in. Hi, Ariana, glad you're here. We'll see how many others join in. I think what I'd like to talk about is something I'm exceptionally passionate about, and that's truth. Now, I know that's a touchy topic. We live in an era right now in which we are being bombarded, just avalanched, with all kinds of information that is either not exactly truth or complete fabrications. And the truth I'm interested in is multi-leveled. Let me back up a little bit. Once upon a time, when I was very involved in a particular religion, I don't need to name it. I'm no longer in that religion, but I was for 30 odd, sometimes exceptionally odd years. And during that time, I was taught that truth had a capital T, that it was absolute, that it was steadfast, that it was all about black and white, good and bad, right and wrong, that whole separation about who's in, who's out, and who's correct and who's wrong, who is orthodox and who is anathema. And I bought into it. Even though prior to being involved with this religion, I had had a direct experience with something ineffable, something I couldn't name, something I can't define, but something I directly experienced when I was young and I was asking for truth to be revealed to me. I wanted to know, who am I? Why am I here? Why do I even exist? And am I set with a mission, a cause, a purpose? Am I here for a reason? My little child brain wanted to know all the answers to those questions. And the answers didn't come in a forthright, direct manner the way I might have thought I wanted once upon a time. I had to find them out experientially, over time, by living my life. And I have learned to have more of a, well, let's just say, relationship with truth, rather than it being something that I discover and declare and define and defend, because that's really more of a perspective or a personal belief. And I've got those. I'm fully human. I've got all the things, opinions and assumptions and conclusions and judgments. I'm as human as anybody. But the truth I want to talk about is something that I discovered and experienced over the years. So let me back up a little bit in my timeline. So during the time in which I was very involved in religion, I was raising and homeschooling my 8 children. I had an encounter on May 24th, 2004 at 3:45 p.m. I know what time it was because I glanced at the clock. I was sitting in my 15-passenger van, which is pretty much what you have to drive if you go and have 8 children. And I'm in there by myself, as I often was. My eldest son was having a drum lesson in this little church in the woods in Vienna, Virginia, surrounded by woods and a babbling creek and a Springfield pond. It was just idyllic, beautiful surroundings. And I wasn't having any particular kind of thoughts. I remember looking around and thinking, oh, those dogwood blossoms look lovely the way they dapple in the woods like little glowing white gems. And strange how it's not horribly humid yet, because it gets that way in the outskirts of the Washington, D.C. area. I was having those kind of random mundane thoughts. And all of a sudden, I had this energy come up through me. It felt like it was coming from the seat of the car, which was weird because the car was turned off. And it went, as best as I can describe, up and down my spine several times, and then it kind of shot through me, like my whole body was just eviscerated with energy and electricity, and it was glorious, and it felt too good to be true. I mean, I was in a rather repressive religion, and I was taught to take spirituality and put it way up on an unattainable pedestal, and to kick sexuality into the proverbial gutter, and never the twain shall meet. And this experience that I didn't ask for, I hadn't prayed for it, I had never heard of it, all of a sudden it took these two seemingly polarized diverse energies and it went zoop, and they became the flip sides of the same coin. And I somehow knew, without anybody telling me, sort of a divinely downloaded nanosecond of an experience, I suddenly knew that I knew that I knew that the human being is comprised of both the profane and the sacred, both the earthly and the cosmic, both the masculine and the feminine, both the sexual and the spiritual. And it wasn't one being better than the other. We had both. So if you think about the chakra system, if you're familiar with that, we have 7 chakras in our body. The lower 3 chakras are all about the earth, feminine energy, and sexuality. The upper 3 chakras are all about the cosmos, masculine energy, and spirit. And these 2 energies meet and merge and radiate out from our heart, where we connect to everybody else on planet Earth and beyond. There's no limit to how we can connect to all that is through us. We're kind of like an antenna in that way, between earth and sky. We're that wonderful conduit that can pick up on consciousness, which I personally believe imbues everything and everyone. We are all emanations of consciousness, capital C. So in the aftermath of this experience, which revolutionized me from the inside out and ended up getting me catapulted out of that religion and eventually, 6 years later, out of my marriage, what that did to me is to cause me to cry out for truth at all cost. I meant it with every fiber of my being, not knowing what it would actually end up costing me. It's been expensive, but it's also been priceless. Despite the losses, despite the challenges, I am 100% sold out to truth at all cost. Shortly after this experience, I remember cogitating, meditating, however you want to look at it. I was pondering the ineffables, and I wanted to have a visual representation of what truth is. Because it went from being this stagnant, dissectable black and white thing into this expansive, living thing that wanted to engage with me, and I wanted to know how to engage with it. All of a sudden, I got this image, this vision inside of me of this enormous, translucent green gem, like a glowing, living, enormous, ginormous emerald. Not exactly stone, but I saw that it was cut into billions of facets, more than were possible to count. And I saw this image of individual humans, each in front of their own facet, peering into this enormous gem of truth. And some people were content just to look through their own facet, to look in and go, okay, I see truth. I encounter truth. And some of us, including me, were not satisfied to only look through our own facet. We wanted to look through the facets of others. I got curious about the facet of the person next to me. Like, can I look in yours? Can I see what you're seeing? And how about that guy over there? And how about the one way on the other side? I got curious and I got greedy, unapologetically greedy, to know how everybody sees the gem of truth. I also had an experience of truth coming to me like an entity and looking right into my eyes and then holding out its hand to me and saying, come on, take my hand. I have much more to show you if you can bear it. It will cause you to question everything you think you know, everything you think is real, everything you think is true, everything everyone else has told you is real and true. It will require you to suspend judgment and to have a direct experiential encounter with the entity of truth itself, not on a one-time shot, but an everlasting, never-ending journey into the much more that truth had to show me. And I wanted that. I wanted that with every fiber of my being. I wanted the truth that ground me into knowing who I am as an individual, who I can be in connection with my fellow humans, and who I can be and what I can experience in connecting with all of everything that is possible, even if it takes an eternity, even if it costs me what I think I already know. In those early years following that experience, I experienced a lot of loss. A lot of people turned against me. I was no longer the predictable one in the safe little parameters of the box that either they tried to shove me into or that I had escaped into out of a sense of fear about what might be possible outside of it. That safety felt too confining, too constricting, and I shed it like a garment that had become too tight for me to wear. Truth for me about the divine that I used to call God, used to be masculine, used to be exclusive. All of a sudden, that which was divine was too good, too big, too real, too vast, too benevolent, and too non-exclusively male for me to keep it in the confines of the box that had been handed to me. I tossed the box. Some people say you need to think outside the box. I kind of think that thinking itself, especially thinking the thoughts that others have told you to think, thinking that way is the box. And I want to be outside of the box. I want to color outside of the lines. I want to know everything there is to know about whatever is true, both little t true and capital T true. One of the quotes that I stumbled upon that helped me through those years of exploring truth at all cost goes like this. The unanswered questions are not nearly as dangerous as the unquestioned answers. Let me say that again. The unanswered questions are not nearly as dangerous as the unquestioned answers. So if somebody else gives me an answer, a packaged in the box, here's a little present, bow on top, unwrap it, let it be your gift, live in the box. Anytime someone gives me that kind of a gift, I'm going to look at it, explore it, see if it fits me where I am, and then decide whether I want to keep it or not. I'd rather explore what's possible to be truth than to receive somebody else's second-hand version of truth. I want a first-hand experiential encounter with the entity of truth for myself. I want to explore that. I want to see where it takes me. I want to go the distance with it. And I don't think it's confined to just me in this earth suit, in this lifetime, in this incarnation. I think it's something that goes on and on. That's my own personal belief, and all of my beliefs are subject to tweaking. Once you have your world blown up the way mine was back on May 24th, 2004 at 3:45 p.m., once that happens, you kind of hold everything a little loosely. You don't grip it like this anymore and say, this is mine to defend. It's more like, this is mine to question, to explore, and to expand upon. There's another quote that I think I'll wrap up with. I think it's Arthur Schopenhauer, and I could be totally botching his name. My apologies to all the dead people that I had defaced in this particular transmission. But the quote goes, the truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Secondly, it is violently opposed. And then eventually, it is accepted as being self-evident. That's one of the dances I do with truth. Truth slaps me upside the head on a regular basis. I walk around with a perpetual puppy dog look like, what? I got that wrong too? But I love discovering truth. I love having a deception or a distortion or something that I got incomplete or completely inaccurate, disbanded and replaced with truth. There's a liberty, an empowerment that comes with that. That's it's intoxicating and it's addictive, and it's how I want to live. I would personally rather have to face the most ugly of truths than to be fooled by the most beautiful of lies. Even though I said my last quote was my last quote, this is going to be my last quote, and then I will wrap up. I like what Mark Twain once said. It's easy to fool a person. It's challenging to convince that person they've been fooled. May each and all of us have our eyes open to whatever truth most fits our own soul, most repairs our own relationships, and most brings us all into healing and unity as a collective. Thank you for joining in on my debut, and now I know what I was going to talk about. Thank you, and bye-bye.